It was supposed to be a quiet school celebration, simple, joyful, and forgettable. But what unfolded behind closed school doors left teachers shaken, parents whispering, and royal insiders scrambling. Prince Louis, the youngest royal, was removed from the premises after a startling confrontation with another child. And that was just the beginning. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. The setting was immaculate, a prestigious private institution known for discretion, decorum, and its carefully curated guest list. That day, the school was hosting an annual celebration, bringing together parents, students, and a handful of honored guests. The presence of a young royal was expected to be symbolic, light-hearted, and uneventful. Instead, it became the catalyst for one of the most quietly disruptive royal stories in recent years. According to parents in attendance, murmurs began circulating even before the final performance ended. An incident, some said. A disruption, others whispered. But by the time official staff moved to close off a hallway and escort security discreetly through the back corridors, it was clear something serious had occurred. Prince Louis, usually seen beaming during public engagements, had reportedly been involved in an altercation with another child, one that escalated beyond what anyone could manage on the spot. Details clashed. Some claimed it began with words. Others suggested it turned physical almost instantly. What is known, however, is this. Within minutes of the incident, school officials made the unprecedented decision to remove the young prince from the premises, halting the remainder of the event. Royal protection officers swiftly followed protocol. Louis was escorted out through a discreet rear exit, shielded from onlookers. But the silence that followed was deafening. The palace made no comment. Teachers were instructed not to speak. And yet, the whispers only grew louder. Parents began piecing together the story from hushed fragments, text messages, and overheard conversations. Witness accounts conflicted. Some described Louis as inconsolable, others painted him as defiant. The school staff's quick reaction, however, left little doubt that this was no minor misstep, and with the royal family's notorious grip on public image, the immediate blackout on information only raised more questions. Was this a tantrum, or something far more telling? Was the altercation isolated or a symptom of deeper unrest within the youngest member of the monarchy? But to truly understand how a royal child's moment turned into a national scandal, we need to dig into the weeks leading up to that fateful day. Whispers of unrest had already begun to circulate. Prince Louis had been acting out, growing distant and challenging authority. But no one outside the palace walls knew just how deep the tension had gone, or how close the young royal was to a breaking point. Inside the walls of the elite institution where Prince Louis was enrolled, subtle shifts in behavior had not gone unnoticed. Teachers began noting erratic moods, emotional outbursts, and growing difficulty in handling authority. He would suddenly go silent during group sessions, then react explosively over seemingly minor disruptions. Staff initially dismissed it as typical childhood rebellion, but this wasn't just another student. This was the future of the monarchy's next generation. The stakes were higher, the scrutiny unforgiving. And while most children grow through such phases in privacy, Louis carried his every expression under the weight of royal legacy. Behind the palace doors, the situation wasn't any calmer. Those closest to the Wales household described an undercurrent of unease that had been building steadily over the past year. As William and Kate took on more official duties, young Louis, eager, spirited, and increasingly vocal, began to feel the absence. His siblings, George and Charlotte, were praised for their poise. But Louis struggled to understand why the world watched him so closely. Reports suggest he began questioning the royal routine, resisting rehearsals, pushing back during formal training sessions meant to instill structure. For a boy so young, the burden of a crafted image was already becoming too much. The dynamics at home reportedly shifted as well. Insiders noted occasional clashes between the children, sibling tensions that intensified with Louis's growing defiance. What was once playful energy became unpredictable defiance. Kate, ever the composed matriarch in public, was said to be deeply troubled behind the scenes. William, carrying the dual roles of father and heir, found himself torn between empathy and duty. Tutors brought in to provide academic and emotional guidance reportedly raised concerns, only to have their assessments met with internal debate, some believing Louis simply needed time, others urging intervention before a misstep played out in the public eye. But the moment that truly foreshadowed the incident at the school event came weeks before, during a quiet disciplinary meeting following an outburst in class. According to multiple sources, Louis had stormed out of a lesson after being told he couldn't take the lead in a group activity. What followed was an impromptu sit-down involving teachers, school counsellors, and a royal aide. The conclusion? Close monitoring. But no real action. The belief then was that he would self-correct. They were wrong. And as the pressure mounted in private, what no one realised was how dangerously close Louis was to exploding in public. It wasn't just a scuffle. It was an eruption. One child said the wrong thing. Louis lashed out, and suddenly, the room descended into chaos. In minutes, the royal family's youngest member found himself at the centre of a scandal they couldn't bury. It happened swiftly, but left an impact that echoed far beyond the walls of that elite institution. The school hall was buzzing parents, students, and faculty, all gathered for what was meant to be a celebration of community and accomplishment. Prince Louis, escorted by his royal security detail and a pair of staff aides, arrived under minimal fanfare. For most, it was simply another reminder of the monarchy's subtle influence woven into British life. But behind the polished appearance, tension simmered. Louis had already arrived that morning in an irritable state, according to school insiders. He'd been unusually quiet, withdrawn, eyes darting around the room. Those close to him sensed something was off, but no one expected what was about to unfold. As the children mingled before the ceremony, a seemingly harmless exchange turned into a flashpoint. According to multiple sources, another child made an offhand comment. Some say it was teasing, others say it referenced Louis's royal status. But whatever it was, it hit a nerve. Louis reportedly snapped, shouting back in a raised voice. The teachers moved to intervene, but too late. Louis shoved the other child. A brief struggle followed, loud enough to stop conversations mid-sentence. Parents turned. Teachers rushed in, and in the chaos that followed, the mood of the event flipped instantly from celebration to crisis. Within minutes, school administrators made a decisive call. Louis was to be removed from the premises immediately. Royal protection officers moved with practiced precision, shielding the young prince from onlookers as they ushered him through a staff-only exit. The remaining crowd was left in a stunned silence, processing the fact that the youngest member of the royal family had just been escorted out mid-event, following a physical altercation. For many parents, the incident raised deeper concerns. Whispered conversations quickly turned into frantic calls to the school board. What had really happened? Had someone provoked him, or was this an unchecked display of royal entitlement? As confusion spread, the event was cut short. The royal family's representatives issued no explanation, no apology, no formal acknowledgement. William and Kate, who were scheduled to arrive later, reportedly changed their plans and left without comment. In a matter of hours, what had been designed as an uplifting school celebration was now tainted by a scandal that would be impossible to contain. But this wasn't just about a child's misstep. It was about what this incident revealed beneath the surface. But what happened next didn't just escalate the situation, it exposed the cracks beneath the royal facade. In a move that stunned even the most seasoned royal observers, the school administration delivered its verdict. Prince Louis would be expelled from further event participation until further notice. The message? No one, not even royalty, is above the rules. The decision was delivered behind closed doors, but its shockwaves rippled instantly. An emergency meeting was convened between the headmaster and royal representatives, the tone described by insiders as calm on the surface and explosive beneath it. The school's position was firm. This was not a punishment aimed at humiliation, they insisted, but a line drawn to preserve order and safety. In a carefully worded statement, administrators emphasized equal treatment for all students, stressing that status could not outweigh responsibility. It was a sentence that landed like a thunderclap. For an institution long accustomed to discretion and deference, this was a public assertion of authority that even the palace could not easily challenge. Behind the scenes, outrage erupted. Senior royal aides reportedly pushed back hard, questioning the severity of the decision and warning of long-term consequences. Calls were made, appeals were floated. Some demanded the ruling be reconsidered quietly, reframed as a temporary pause rather than an expulsion from events. But the school did not budge. To reverse the decision now, they argued, would suggest that rules bend under pressure, and that was precisely the perception they were trying to avoid. The standoff revealed a rare reversal of power, the Crown asking, the institution refusing. For William and Kate, the moment cut far deeper than headlines. Those close to the couple described their reaction as quiet devastation. There were no public displays, no visible anger, only the weight of a realization settling in. Their son was not being shielded. Not this time. The discipline was real, the consequences immediate, and the lesson painfully public. As parents, they were torn between protecting Louis and allowing him to face accountability. As future king and queen, they understood the symbolism was already beyond their control. Fear quickly crept in fear of precedent. What would the public make of this? Would this be seen as fairness at work, or as the monarchy losing its grip on privilege? Commentators began circling, debating whether this moment marked a cultural shift. If a prince could be sidelined so decisively, what did that say about the future of royal influence? And within palace corridors, a more drastic option was whispered: withdrawal, pulling Louis from the school altogether, resetting the narrative, starting again elsewhere, away from scrutiny and defiance. But that, too, carried risk. Leaving now could look like retreat. Staying could mean surrendering control. Every option felt like a loss. And as the story began to leak beyond school gates, beyond whispered parent chats and internal memos, one thing became painfully clear: this was no longer a private matter. The decision had crossed into public consciousness, and there would be no easy reversal. As news of the expulsion leaked, the royal PR machine launched into overdrive, but the damage had already been done. Within hours of the incident, the palace was in full damage control mode. Emails were flying, phones were ringing. The goal was simple: contain the fallout, silence the chatter, and protect the monarchy's image, no matter what it cost. What began as a schoolyard altercation had now become a reputational emergency. Kensington Palace was transformed into a command centre, with senior aides gathering to strategize their next move. The air was thick with urgency. Every second lost was a risk. Internally, lines were drawn between two camps. Those who advocated for silence, letting the headlines exhaust themselves, and those who argued for proactive control of the narrative. A carefully crafted response could reposition the event as a learning moment for a young royal, but a misstep could backfire catastrophically, making the crown appear both out of touch and above consequence. Meanwhile, William and Kate were walking a razor's edge. On one hand, they were parents hurt, embarrassed, and fiercely protective. On the other, they were future monarchs, expected to uphold a legacy that leaves no room for public error. According to palace sources, they insisted on keeping Louis shielded from the press, but behind closed doors, their concern for his long-term well-being was growing. The incident had exposed vulnerabilities they hadn't anticipated. How do you parent a boy destined for a public life while managing the fallout of his private missteps? Behind the scenes, pressure mounted on the school as well. Whispers began to circulate about confidential agreements, non-disclosure arrangements quietly introduced to parents and staff. There were rumors of financial incentives, of promises to maintain discretion in exchange for silence. The palace, some claimed, was working not just to protect Louis, but to erase the story altogether. But in an age of instant messaging and viral speculation, information moved faster than control. The public was no longer satisfied with palace statements. They wanted transparency, and they wanted it now. Online forums and media outlets began questioning the integrity of both institutions, the palace and the school. Was the royal family trying to escape accountability yet again? Had the school been pressured into disciplinary action or coerced into silence? Royalists and critics clashed across social media. What was once a private disciplinary issue had now mutated into a public crisis about power, privilege, and parenting under a crown. And just as the palace thought it had shaped the message tightly enough to weather the storm, something unexpected broke the carefully woven barrier of control. It wasn't another statement. It wasn't a staff comment. It was something raw, something undeniable. Something they didn't see coming. But while the palace tried to seal the cracks, one unexpected leak threatened to blow the story wide open. Just when the palace thought they had buried the story, a grainy video surfaced. Captured by a parent's phone, the footage didn't just show the altercation, it revealed a young boy unraveling under pressure and a royal family in desperate need of control. It began with a social media post that gained traction within minutes. The video, shaky and poorly lit, was never meant for public view, but it made its way online, and once it did, there was no turning back. The clip showed the final seconds of the confrontation. Louis, red-faced, shouting something inaudible before shoving another child, followed by startled gasps, a teacher rushing in, and then the unmistakable presence of royal security removing him from the room. It was raw, unfiltered, and unspinnable. The reaction was immediate. Within an hour, the video had gone viral. Major news outlets picked it up, dissecting every frame, every sound, every blurred expression. Headlines exploded. Commentators debated, was this the meltdown of a royal child or the exposure of something much deeper? For the public, the reaction was split straight down the middle. Many were furious, accusing the palace of trying to suppress an incident they had no right to hide. If it were any other child, they argued, this would have been dealt with openly. But an equal number responded with sympathy. For the first time, the youngest royal wasn't seen through the lens of ceremony and expectation, but as a child under crushing weight. The video, as damaging as it was, revealed the human side of the institution in a way polished photo ops never could. Louis wasn't misbehaving for attention, he was breaking down. And suddenly, the nation found itself not just scandalized, but emotionally divided. Inside the palace, the leak triggered sheer panic. Aides scrambled to trace the origin of the footage, contacting the school, reviewing guest lists, even suggesting surveillance audits. Charles, reportedly enraged, ordered an internal inquiry. Who filmed it? Who shared it? Who had failed to protect the one thing they still thought they could control: privacy? But the damage was already done. The clip had pierced the veil of royal myth. Eventually, Kensington Palace was forced to respond. A brief, carefully phrased statement was released, acknowledging the challenges faced by all families in moments of stress and learning, and requesting privacy as parents work through this matter with love and understanding. But the words rang hollow to some. For others, it was the first time the royals had shown any true vulnerability since the incident began. Either way, the statement marked a turning point. The silence was broken. The illusion of total control was shattered. The story was no longer about what Louis did, but what the family would do next. But even in crisis, there are moments of clarity, and Prince Louis's story was about to take a very different turn. With the monarchy under fire and her son in turmoil, Catherine, Princess of Wales, did something no royal mother had done in decades. She spoke out. And what she said didn't just shift public perception, it changed the course of the narrative. The statement came not through a formal press conference or a public engagement, but as a letter hand-delivered to school officials and shared quietly with the broader community. It was deeply personal, unmistakably heartfelt, and, in a stunning break from royal protocol, signed by Kate herself. In it, she acknowledged the hurt, the disappointment, and most importantly, the reality. Louis, she wrote, was a child learning to navigate extraordinary circumstances. A child carrying a name that came with centuries of expectations, yet still vulnerable to the same growing pains, insecurities, and emotional overwhelm as any other. She didn't excuse his actions, she explained them. Not to diminish their impact, but to remind the world that accountability and compassion are not mutually exclusive. Kate's letter detailed the conversations she and William had with Louis following the incident. She admitted that the family had underestimated the emotional toll of their public life on their youngest child, that they had been slow to act on the signs others had seen. But most strikingly, she called for forgiveness, not just for Louis, but for themselves, for being human, for learning, for growing, even while the world watched. In a single page, she managed to do what no royal press secretary could have achieved. She reclaimed control of the story by surrendering the illusion of perfection. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Media outlets that had been relentlessly critical of the palace days earlier pivoted sharply. Headlines changed tone. Commentators praised the princess's candor, calling her words brave, human, and refreshingly honest. For the first time since the incident, Louis was no longer the misbehaving prince. He was a little boy struggling to find his place in a world that never gave him a choice. Across social media, "We support Louis" began trending. Parents, teachers, and child psychologists came forward to defend the importance of empathy in moments of conflict. And through it all, Kate remained silent, letting her words speak once and speak fully. But she didn't stop there. Days later, she quietly visited the school not with cameras or press, but with intention. She met privately with staff, listened to their concerns, and thanked them for their professionalism. She spoke with students, answered questions, and ensured that no resentment lingered. It wasn't a staged act of redemption. It was a mother doing what she believed was right without spectacle, but with sincerity. And that sincerity didn't just soothe the school community. It disarmed the critics. It changed the conversation. But while Kate's heartfelt words softened public opinion, the monarchy still faced one final decision, one only the king could make. He had remained silent through it all. But now, King Charles was ready to speak. And when he did, it was with the full weight of the crown behind his words. His message was clear, and his warning unmistakable. The setting was a scheduled royal engagement, public, ceremonial, and seemingly routine. But when the reporters gathered, they knew something was different. There was a shift in tone, a tightening of presence, a deliberate stillness that said, this was no longer about tradition or appearance. This was about control. And then Charles spoke. Not with emotion, not with rage, but with the calm edge of absolute authority. He acknowledged the situation. He addressed it directly. He said, "In every family, there are trials. And in this family, those trials are more visible, but they are still ours to face." It was a calculated opening, measured, regal, and unmistakably personal. He spoke of discipline not as punishment, but as a necessary structure for growth, of learning not in private silence, but through public fire. And in perhaps the most striking moment of his address, he turned to the very foundation of monarchy, tradition. "We are stewards," he said. "We do not own the institution, we preserve it. For it to endure, we must live it. And for it to evolve, we must face ourselves with honesty." It was a quiet indictment, not of his grandson, but of those who sought to weaponize the moment for spectacle or shame. Still, he didn't shy away from accountability. In a sentence that landed with the force of finality, he stated, "Louis is my grandson, but he is also a boy, and boys must learn." It was as much a declaration to the nation as it was to the child himself. No protection, no special treatment, only the cold ceremonial truth that even a child born into a crown must grow into it with effort, not entitlement. For some, it was exactly the message the monarchy needed to restore integrity. For others, it felt distant, even severe a grandfather who chose the throne over the child. Royal watchers were divided. Some praised Charles for putting duty before emotion. Others criticized the lack of warmth, of public forgiveness. But beneath the surface of the king's stoicism, there were whispers of private support. Sources close to the palace revealed that Charles had met with William and Kate in the days before the address, reaffirming his confidence in their parenting, his love for Louis, and his belief that what matters now is not the mistake, but the lesson that follows. He reportedly told aides, "The boy must carry the name, but we must teach him how to wear it." The speech marked a turning point, not just in the story, but in the monarchy's stance. It was a signal that the age of glossed-over scandals and unseen corrections was ending, that accountability would not bypass the bloodline, that even in royalty, redemption would have to be earned. But in the aftermath of scandal, a surprising decision quietly unfolded, one that set the tone for Louis's future and the royal family's next chapter. In the shadow of scandal, Prince Louis has been quietly withdrawn from public life but not hidden. Behind palace gates, a new plan is taking shape, and it could redefine how the royal family handles its youngest heirs in a modern world. After the media firestorm, the expulsion, and the king's sobering address, many assumed the Windsors would retreat into silence. But what emerged was not a retreat, it was a recalibration. Prince Louis, still reeling from the overwhelming scrutiny, was quietly enrolled in an unconventional educational program nestled deep in the English countryside. No press release, no photo call. Just a quiet transition into a place designed not for aristocratic polish, but for emotional restoration. A school where the lessons are not only read from books, but felt through reflection, empathy, and resilience. A place where a young royal could learn to be a boy again, not a headline. The program, rarely spoken of in royal circles, is small, discreet, and far from the flashbulbs of London. Its emphasis lies in emotional intelligence, peer accountability, and nurturing confidence away from performance. For William and Kate, this was not a matter of optics, it was a deliberate act of parenting over protocol. They had been pushed to the edge by critics, by commentators, even by advisors, but in that pressure, they found clarity. Louis didn't need a new title or spin. He needed space, time, and grace. And so, they gave it to him, even if it meant walking away from the well-worn royal playbook. Insiders describe this choice as a profound internal shift, a family choosing restoration over reputation. "It's about rebuilding from the inside out," one senior aide reportedly said. "There's no press strategy here, just two parents trying to protect their son while preparing him for the life he didn't choose." But that decision, bold as it was, also sent ripples through the institution. For decades, royal children have followed a predictable pattern: prestigious schools, public smiles, ceremonial milestones. But with Louis, that mold has been cracked, if not shattered. And many now wonder, will this become the new norm, a more human path for heirs raised under a global microscope? Yet for all the praise, there are those who remain uneasy. Critics argue that shielding Louis too much may further alienate the public, who now demand transparency from an institution long known for secrecy. Others question the privilege of a family who can simply disappear from scandal without consequence. But even amid those debates, one truth remains undeniable. This move marks a turning point, not just for Louis, but for the monarchy itself. A monarchy grappling with how to raise its future kings and queens in a world that no longer tolerates emotional distance or institutional detachment. And still, the memory of that schoolyard altercation lingers. Because while the scandal may fade from headlines, its impact continues to shape the choices behind palace doors. A delicate dance between personal redemption and public responsibility. Because in the House of Windsor, scandal may fade, but its echoes never truly disappear. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.